So The Mandalorian Season 2 has completed, and it gives us a conclusion to the central character's current quest. As a piece of TV, it was pretty glorious. If you're still on the fence on why you should watch The Mandalorian, then these are the reasons to give the first 2-season arc of The Mandalorian another try. Before we get started, these 5 reasons are time-coded in the description. There are no spoilers in this video beyond what you might see as the blurb on the back of a comic. 1. A confluence of talent. The original Star Wars film isn't just a film. It's a confluence of time, place and talent. In this way, it shares similar properties to the moon landing. At a specific time in cinema history, a confluence of talent came together to get a man's vision to screen. The single creator myth is largely just that, a myth. Even Lucas admits he should not be left alone to write his own ideas. The confluence of time, place and talent had already started to decay by the time The Return of the Jedi came around. Without doubt, The Mandalorian is another confluence of talent. Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau understand Star Wars. Filoni spent years being the filter Lucas needed for his ideas on the animated series The Clone Wars. And The Clone Wars, it's a work of genius. The Mandalorian has brought its own confluence of talent, a ragtag bunch assembled from across the filmmaking galaxy, brilliantly architected through intentional choice. This confluence of talent has created a pocket of Star Wars with its own visual aesthetic, music, brilliant characters and story. That's why you need to watch The Mandalorian. 2. Space opera with meaning. Space opera, it's hokey blasters, space wizards and people in rubber masks. It's easy, inconsequential and disposable. That is what a lot of critics would like you to think. But those critics are wrong. Good space opera is incredibly challenging to do. If you place deep, introspective, hard science fiction on the right and hokey cartoon-like space opera on the left, you're left actually with a very narrow point between these two extremes where space opera sits. And everyone knows when you get it wrong. But many people don't know exactly why. Such is the ephemeral nature of successful space opera. It's so ephemeral, it could be argued that even Star Wars fails to hit the narrow lane itself on many an occasion. The Mandalorian nails quality space opera. It nails space opera with enough meaning and depth without pushing it too far into the right of hard science fiction. It's perfectly pitched into the space opera quality zone. It could be said one of the faults of some pieces of Star Wars is while death and sacrifice happens at a space opera scale, the emotion of it sometimes isn't felt. The Mandalorian accepts that scale, but brings the emotion of it down to individual people. That's why you need to watch The Mandalorian. 3. One film, many parts. To those who are put off by the structure of The Mandalorian, I do get it. It's episodic, the episodes are sometimes very random in length, and it does seem to go off at tangents. The structure of The Mandalorian is a bit odd, but to some extent it's only odd because streaming has taught us to expect 12 hours of tightly serialised material. The Mandalorian breaks this trend. First, I constantly questioned it myself, until I saw Season 1 as a whole and completed work. The way I see it now is this. Typical streaming shows present us with a 12-hour novel, but in a lot of cases, a third of those episodes suffer for it. Another way to look at it is, that's 6 Star Wars films. That's a crazy level of time to keep up with the Star Wars pacing and budgetary requirements across 12-hour-long episodes. So The Mandalorian is one film split into its space opera chapters. Let's take a look at The Empire Strikes Back, split into its chapters. It would look like this. The Wampa attacks, the search for Luke, the Imperial assault, the flight from Hoth. So you can see how it's working. These individual narratives within the larger film are quintessential episodes of The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian gives us a single film delivered in its Saturday morning serial, episodic parts. This is a good thing because space opera does not linger. It doesn't do many long talking scenes that aren't conducted via action or interrupted by action. Would the space opera format or the budget survive a 12-hour serialised film? I doubt it. This is why you need to watch The Mandalorian. 4. It's a gorgeous production. Okay, visuals and action scenes and general production quality don't necessarily define a show, but The Mandalorian sure does look and sound gorgeous. Every week I sit amazed that I am watching on TV something that within my lifetime used to be incredibly hard to produce with such fidelity and authenticity at the cinema. I mean, I remember a time when TV fared very poorly when it came to film. It was a quintessentially trashy medium by comparison. And that is the genius of it. Not just that it looks gorgeous, but that it's managed to layer into it a style of rugged realism that even goes beyond the original Star Wars itself without nudging it out of the space opera quality zone. People underestimate how clever and delicate an achievement that is. It puts on display a space opera world that feels almost as authentic as ours. Its visuals are a work of art. And don't even get me started on the bold choices to use their own series-defining musical score. That is why you need to watch The Mandalorian. 5. Fathers and sons. It could be said that a core of Star Wars is about father and son relationships, even if some of them are proxy relationships wrapped up in that of mentor and student. And even then, the student often has a dysfunctional relationship with his actual father. That's fine, but when it almost becomes a convention of the story every time, rather than a facet of one particular character alone, you have to start to question why this choice is always the one the writers make. The Mandalorian does the brilliant thing of casting that aside and gives us a story about a man, also adopted, doing the best for his adopted son, for which he has accepted a quest to do right by him. The father has a code to rarely take off his helmet, and the son is a puppet. Despite this, that relationship works, and because it can't be explored through overwrought melodrama, it finds another way, and it's a thing of beauty. When the conclusion to the arc comes around at the end of season 2, all the subtlety of it is an emotional sucker punch. That is why you should watch The Mandalorian. It's Star Wars through the lens of a positive father and son relationship. 6. Role-playing game genius. Okay, I did say 5. Consider this a bonus reason because it's an edge case. If you play role-playing games, The Mandalorian is a great inspiration for how to deliver a campaign. This is intrinsically linked to how its seasons are structured. Each of the episodes represents a single situation that would make a perfect 3-hour session. This is especially true during the pandemic, when we are all playing online, which means you tend to have shorter sessions and get through less in those sessions. These chapter-like situations involve less thinking up in advance, since they are single situations to be resolved. The nods to any sense of overall story can be woven lightly through the episodes. So there we have it. 5 reasons to start watching The Mandalorian, along with a bonus one. If you're not watching it, I recommend you give it a try. If it lost you a bit during early season 1, I'd recommend you revisit it. It is a unique form of storytelling doing its own thing, and on that basis it deserves rewarding. The first 2 seasons also afford you a narrative arc that actually completes. Until next time, you can support me by doing a few simple things. Like the video, check out some other videos, or consider subscribing. More importantly, post a comment. Are you watching The Mandalorian? If so, why not? Did the episode structure put you off? Let's continue to make life a story worth telling together.